day. Konbanwa, genki desu ka? That's good evening, or good afternoon rather. And how are you doing in Japanese? But anyway, I just wanted to possibly record a quick video real quick. I want to talk about accountability. This is something in my life that, as I've stated in previous videos, that is really important to me. It took me a long time how to figure out what I should be accountable for and what is accountability. After I figured out what I should be accountable for, I had to figure out what is the accountability in that situation overall, no matter what the circumstances were. Accountability implies interaction. You can't be accountable for what happens on the other side of the earth if you were there, or if you don't have any ties to it. It is something that is persistent in your life. You can never escape accountability. Accountability is something that is always present so long as you're living. Even children have to be held to accountability. I'd say that, well, not your entire life. I say that babies are probably the only ones that can't be held accountable for their actions. But once you become of consciousness of yourself, then that's when you have to start taking accountability. How this plays out. I've been in many situations in which I didn't understand what accountability was. Meaning that I wasn't aware of the impact of my own actions according to what happened in whatever situation I was in which I didn't understand what was accountability in those situations. And it caused me problems because I wasn't able to optimize my experience in those situations the best way I could, because I wasn't even sure I wasn't even sure what the accountability was in the situation. And furthermore, once I understood what accountability was, I didn't understand what I should be accountable for. Accountability doesn't always take the form of receiving accolades or success, or being in a self-made position, autodidactic. It doesn't always pan out that way. There's a negative side of accountability, but I wouldn't call it a negative side. I just call it a negative side because it is the antithesis of success, where you take accountability for wrongdoings. You take accountability for your portion of what you contributed to whatever situation that had a negative impact because of your actions had a negative impact in that situation. You have to take accountability. Accountability is part of being an adult. It's also part of being a young adult. It's a part of life. Accountability is a tool to help you grow. It's not a tool for self-blame or self-hatred, or it's not a tool to break down your self-esteem. It's a tool it's supposed to be used to help build you into the best version of yourself. You have to take accountability in order to do so, because the old saying is you can't fix a problem if you don't acknowledge that there is a problem in the first place. And that's how accountability plays out in the so-called, like I said, negative aspect. if you don't have the ability to assess a situation and figure out where you are accountable for your actions, then you don't have the ability to grow. You don't have the ability to become a better person. That's why accountability is so important to me, because I strive to become a better person. I thrive off of knowledge of self. I thrive off of knowledge of my interactions and how they affect other people, whether it be good or bad, because these are the tools that I need in order to become the person that I want to become. We aren't in bubbles, within our environment. We are part of our environment. So once again, accountability is part of progression. Accountability can't be escaped once you become a consciousness, unless you lose your mind or something like that. But I'm talking about the generalities of how we exist as humans. We all have issues, we all have problems, but you can't always blame others for your lack thereof or your downfalls, because that'll stunt your growth if you do not take the accountability of where you went wrong. If you're always blaming other people, you're always blaming other situations, you're always blaming someone else, you're always blaming the rain, the environment, period, you lack the ability to grow by your own actions. If you look at people, and I've seen this plenty of times, once again, my channel is geared towards life and the reality of how we approach it, how I approach it, how we see it. I'm very much a realist, but also it is an undertone of male and female interactions. How accountability plays out in male and female interactions, we see it all the time. All the time. And I'm not going to rag on women to say they need to take more accountability for their actions, the same old mantra. I'm not going to go into that. But what I am going to say is, I have frequented dating sites plenty of times in my past. And I would always see women from year to year to year on these dating sites. I'm pretty sure the women can state that as well about the guys. But what that's indicative of is no accountability. They lack the ability to grow into a person who was able to attract a mate that was suitable for them. That's why they're in that situation where they continue to be. So I would charge anyone who is constantly in a state of wondering where they are and looking at the years passing by, but they're feeling stagnant. I would ask you to figure out where you can be accountable for. Figure out where you're placing blame on other people when you should be accountable for those things. Figure out where you're placing blame on the environment for where, instead to figure out, well, let me reword that. Figure out where you're placing blame on the environment when you should be instead placing blame on yourself. Because the blame, once again, isn't so you can be down on yourself so you can, further chip away at your self-esteem. The accountability of that is so that you can grow. Because once again, if you don't acknowledge the problem, you can't fix it. This is something that we all have to learn. This is something that we all go through as adults, humans, children. It doesn't escape us until we die. Accountability is something that is consistent and persistent. It won't relent. It won't let up. It won't give you a break. And the minute that you think it is giving you a break, it's because you're not acknowledging where you should be accepting responsibility. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out and make people aware of what they're doing. Make people aware of what they're doing in their lifetime or in their lives period. I want to make them make you think on where you are in life and where you haven't accepted responsibility of where you are in life if you are dissatisfied with your position. There are a lot of things that happen to us, people move away, people pass away, people do a lot of things. People hurt themselves, you can't be accountable for those things. So I would also charge you that, if you were in those circumstances with anyone and you found yourself back into the rat race of dating, figure out where you should accept, where you should accept accountability. This is important because that can prevent you from charging yourself with a responsibility of figuring out accountability when there is none for you to be accountable for. So be cognitive of these things that I'm talking about. They're very important. These are the fundamentals that people ignore. These are the fundamentals that people glance over. I think if we get back to the fundamentals as people, as human beings, black, white, whatever, we can get to the core root of our issues very quickly. And we can put a plan in place to correct those issues. Maybe not very quickly, but it is a step in the right direction. But anyways, I just got home from work. I'm going to go relax. Oh, it's been a long day. Probably going to soak in a tub or something. I don't know. Just veg out in my bed or something. Read a couple articles. I don't know. But anyway, I wish you all a good day. May the next be even better. But until next time, this is the Wolf and Better Clothes, and peace be with you.